Okay, ready. Go.
I'm Shelby Carver.
I'm Emma Matheson.
I'm Kayla Ruffner.
And I'm Jonah Lipsy.
We're going to present on different aspects of animal cruelty.
I'm going to be talking about livestock animals and the laws that are held against them.
I'm talking about testing on animals.
I'm talking about zoos.
And I'll be talking about the vaccinations for all types of animals.
And then these are just a few pictures. Oh, I know. Trying to get a little creative. Okay, so starting off with the definition of animal cruelty. Animal cruelty is when someone hurts an animal or does not care for an animal responsibly, like not giving a dog or cat food and water. And then it is against the law to be cruel or to harm animals, even your own pets. It's also known as animal abuse or neglect. And then jumping right into livestock animals. What are livestock animals? They are domesticated animals raised in an agricultural setting to produce commodities such as food, fiber, or labor. The term livestock includes cattle, sheep, horses, goats, chickens, or even turkeys, and then there's more than that, obviously. So some issues with the treatment of livestock animals are that animals are given little space to live in general on a day-to-day basis. Subcategories of this would be like hens kept in small cages, pigs kept in jam-packed sheds, cows kept in crowded, filthy feedlots, which leads to disease. And then antibiotics are used to make the animals grow faster, which can lead to antibiotic-resistant bacteria that can actually threaten human life when they eat that food or dairy, or the meat or dairy. And then the question that is just kind of being asked is, when does the treatment of livestock animals cross the line into animal cruelty? So there are federal laws trying to help livestock animals. The first one is the 28-hour law, and it's a transport law, so animals being transported across state lines for slaughter need to be unloaded for food, rest, and water every 28 hours, which obviously is not enforced. The other one is Humane Methods of Livestock Slaughter Act. It's a slaughter law, and it requires that livestock be quickly rendered insensible to pain before being slaughtered, which also is not enforced by the authorities. So it's kind of easy to get away with these federal laws that are held against the treatment of livestock animals. And then next are the state laws. The first one is ag-gag, and it's kind of weird because instead of making it illegal to abuse animals, these livestock animals, these laws make it illegal to document and report such abuse, which is kind of confusing because who would want to document the abuse? But if you are caught documenting the abuse, authorities, obviously it's a state law, so they're going to try and catch you. And then the second one is confinement bans. An increasing number of states are banning certain extreme methods of confinement, such as battery cages for hens and gestation crates for pigs. There are some state law exemptions which are pretty gruesome. Animals can have their testicles, tails, horns, beaks, or toes removed without any anesthesia. Ducks are cruelly force-fed to the point of organ failure, obviously because they want the ducks and the animals to get fatter so that they have more meat, so that they have more money within their factory and their farm. And then hens are systematically starved in order to artificially restart their egg-laying cycles in order to lay more and more eggs throughout the year. And then some livestock animals facts. The pollution from the animal waste causes respiratory problems, skin infections, nausea, depression, and even death for the people who live near the factory farms and the people that eat the meat of some diseased livestock animals. Humans can get E. coli, salmonella, and other pathogen diseases from the meat, dairy, and eggs from these livestock animals if these animals are not treated right. And then 2 in every 3 farm animals in the world are now factory farmed. And then just another kind of gruesome fact is the beaks of chickens, turkeys, and ducks are often removed in factory farms to reduce the excessive feather pecking and cannibalism that's seen amongst stressed, overcrowded birds, which could affect the money-making factor of these factory farms.
The next aspect of animal cruelty that we felt was necessary to discuss was animal testing. I talk mainly in cosmetics, so The International Humane Society estimates about 100,000 to 200,000 animals per year suffer animal testing. This includes rabbits, rats, mice. There are some other smaller rodents like guinea pigs that are also involved. Whenever you include chemicals and foods that we're testing, like GMOs and stuff, this number shoots up into the millions. But we're just going to focus on cosmetics and some chemical testing. Some of the testing that these animals go through are being shaved. They also go through oral gouging, which is when the researchers shove a tube down their throat so they can put the chemicals directly into their stomach to see the side effects. And then they also do eye drops, where they just place the chemical directly onto the eye to see what kind of reactions occur. So what are the researchers testing for whenever they do these awful tests? They want to see this different skin and eye irritation reactions. They want to see digestive tests, like to see if there's organ failure, internal bleeding, what's going on the inside, to see how much damage is done. And also they want to test a lethal dose. So whenever they test the lethal dose, they keep these animals in a cage where it keeps their feet completely still so they can't move any of their body parts, and then their heads are locked into place. So their head is outside of the cage, and then they shove the tube down for oral gouging, and then they shove the chemicals down. And this isn't just a one-day process. These animals will suffer for up to weeks. This is repeated daily, whether it's through the eyes, if they're doing oral gouging, or if they're doing skin. And so some of the outcomes are blindness, swollen eyes, sore and bleeding skin, internal bleeding, organ damage, birth defects, convulsions, and eventually death. Sadly, the animals have no pain relief. It's too much money for the companies to administer pain relief for the animals, so they just let them suffer for how long it takes for the chemicals to kill them. And if the chemicals don't kill them, then the companies kill them. And again, they don't want to splurge money on, like how we put down our dogs, they just go to sleep. It's not very painful for them. These people will asphyxiate, neck break, or decapitate. So instead of having that easy chemical, they'll do a more gruesome. So they've suffered weeks of torture, pretty much, and then they have to go through an awful death. According to PETA, there are ingredients we've been doing animal testing since chemicals first arise, because people feel safer if they've tested on an organism for some reason. They feel like if it's tested on an animal, then it's probably safe for us. Sadly, that's not true. About 92% of the chemicals that we test have different reactions whenever tested on humans. So these animals are pretty much dying for nothing, just to be tested on their own species. So back to what PETA found is we have so many ingredients that we've tested for that we can make literally thousands and millions of new products with what we've known and the safety that we know with these products. But companies decide to come up with something new, something innovative, and so they go back to animal testing because it makes their consumers feel more safe. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are countries that are starting to ban animal cruelty. There are about 28 different countries in the European Union who have completely banned it. Israel, India, and Brazil are making efforts. Brazil is actually very close to having animal testing banned. They proposed a bill that hopefully is going to go through soon. Israel and India, they tried proposing a bill, but it failed for a couple of times. These are some of the companies that currently still test on animals, and it's really big products. You would think that after how many years they've been around that they would cease to stop testing animals, but every so couple years they bring all the animals back out and they'll test their products again. I have a short video for you guys just to recap some of the facts that I've stated about animal testing. It's not gruesome. There's no bad pictures or anything, so if you guys are queasy. short video that kind of recaps what I've been talking about. So like I said, you could go to that one website and get signatures. We decided we liked a different, more modern way of bringing awareness. We chose the hashtag Be Cruelty Free. It's what PETA and the International Humane Society bring into light. So if you take a picture with your dog or whatever, or you go to a seminar that talks about animal cruelty and testing, not just from my aspect of animal cruelty, but the ones that are going to be discussed later. It's a good hashtag. It's bringing actually a lot of light into what actually happens, because a lot of people don't understand what these animals go through. If that was happening to your animal or even your livestock, that would not go very long before your neighbors notice, but this is happening by hundreds of thousands and in the millions every single year in the United States.
Okay, I will be discussing zoos and how they claim to be for animal conservation when it's really just for profit. So since zoos have a limited amount of space, they want to make the most profit out of that space. So they want to fill all that space with as many different animals as they can. And they don't even have concern for the amount of space that each animal has in the exhibits, cages, and enclosures. And these tiny enclosures are not even true to their natural environments. It is estimated that lions and tigers have approximately 18,000 times less space in captivity, and polar bears have 1 million times less space than in the wild. And living in such small areas causes depression, boredom, and serious mental disorders, and which results in animals expressing stressful behaviors, such as repetitive movements, repeatedly retracing their steps, or self-manipulation. And in this picture, in the giraffe picture, I went to the Cleveland Zoo recently, and I watched those bird giraffes express that stressful behavior by following each other back and forth along the fence. And I also saw that this woman in this picture, she would taunt the cheetah by running back and forth along the enclosure so it would try to chase her like she was prey. And it was not until the late 20th century that people began to seriously become educated and concerned for the conditions that these animals faced in these zoos. So this elephant, you can also see that its tusks have been shaven down and smoothed over so it doesn't harm itself or others, as well as the bars going across our electric fences, so that even if they bump into it, they will get shocked for no apparent reason. But there are two federal laws that were put in place, the Animal Welfare Act and the Endangered Species Act. And the AWA is concerned for the welfare of all animals, and it regulates the buying and trading of animals and sets regulations in exhibits such as basic necessities like food, water, and shelter. And the Animal Plant Health Inspection Service was created from this act, where the inspectors would evaluate how well the zoos are following these regulations. And the ESA focuses on the transportation of animals and the exchanges between animals in the zoos as for endangered and threatened species within the United States. But there are limitations to these acts. The AWA only has the minimal standards for these animals, and cold-blooded animals are not even included in those regulations. And APHIS only has 104 inspectors for over 2,000 facilities. So this results in very minimal and infrequent inspections. The ESA only protects a small number of zoo animals, and it's nothing more than just the movement of those animals. But there are ways to fix these problems, such as the AWA and the ESA can work on increasing their standards and including more animals in their regulations. And individuals can support animal-friendly organizations, report zoo cruelty to APHIS and similar organizations, or by not going to those zoos. Because there are other ways to see and learn about these animals, such as watching National Geographic or live streams, such as April's giraffe.
Okay, so for vaccines, we all know that we get them as humans and they help prevent disease, and they also help to reduce the transmission of microorganisms. So vaccination is kind of similar in humans and animals. We actually get vaccinated for a lot of the same strains of the same diseases, but it's just different types of vaccines that are administered to the animals. So they also reduce animal suffering, and it's funny to say that there are certain types of vaccines depending on the animals. So your livestock animals won't get the same vaccination as your domestic pets. So dogs and cows are probably going to be vaccinated a lot differently. So domestic pets have different ones. They have the more less strained ones, like the less severe ones, more like your rabies and your distemper and stuff like that. Your livestock comes more into like E. coli and more of the serious strains that they can pick up from being outside more often than your domestic pet. So what's important to know about vaccines is that proper application is key, and has shown to enhance the animal's health and welfare and prolong their lives. So it's really important to know that vaccination does promote optimal patient, herd, and public health. So you're not only keeping your pet safe, but you're keeping yourself and your family safe as well. So one of the main things that you get your vaccines is through veterinary biologics, and that's the main area where the vaccines come from. That's the overall company that regulates and performs and researches all the vaccinations that are given to your animals, and they are regulated by the USDA. And also these vaccines are stimulation through the immune system to prevent or treat for disease, or to prevent the disease from happening, or to treat the disease if it's already happened. So most of the regulation comes from all the listed companies such as FDA. They're more on the pharmaceutical base, so like vets work with the FDA to make sure if your animal or livestock is sick, that's who regulates the drugs to be administered to your animal. USDA is the actual vaccines itself, and then EPA is pesticides, so more of those who have farms and stuff like that need to know about pesticide issues, and they're the ones that get everything sprayed and situated for their animals to have a healthier life. It takes about 5 to 7 years to be regulated completely, so all the vaccines that we know now have, most of them, this is actually like a low number, a lot of them took about 10 years because they've had issues with some of the strains, because now every disease has multiple strains that your animal can catch, and now they're seeing that what dogs can catch 10 years from now is something that other animals can catch, like your livestock animals can catch as well. So they're really trying to make sure the regulation of the vaccines are completely situated and researched fully, and it takes about $1 million for investment to get all these vaccinations through the research lab and administered and invested for vets to be able to actually administer them to your animals. So there are mild and short-term effects to vaccination. The more mild effects are like coughing, sneezing, some basic respiratory problems. Some get vomiting. Vomiting and diarrhea are more severe, and a lot of them can lead to kidney failure, but really the severe effects are very, very rare. I think it's like a really low amount percentage that actually happens to an animal. So there are two different types of vaccinations you can get. There's core and there's non-core. So for core, it's most pets. So like your dogs, your cats, if you have like guinea pigs, anything like that. Even a lot of livestock animals receive the core vaccinations, and there's a whole list that goes underneath of them. And then non-core is for unique needs. So if you have an animal that has a specific need, like if he was born with a disability or something like that, he or she may get a different strain from a disease, they would probably receive the non-core vaccination for themselves. And it's really important to know that they're administered every 3 years, but your veterinarian also determines the schedule. So a lot of people think, oh, I can get a vaccine once and I'm done. No, for your pets, you really have to go every 3 years. Some may be a little bit, maybe 1.5 to 2 years, depending on the size and if your animal has any issues occurring currently. So those are the mild side effects. There's discomfort, local swelling at the site, mild fever, decreased appetite and activity, so they might not want to eat or go out as much. Sneezing, mild cough, or other respiratory problems, those usually show up 2 to 5 days after the vaccination has been received, but they're the very mild side effects you can receive from any vaccination. And then the severe ones that are very rare, persistent vomiting and diarrhea. They may get itchy skin, it looks like hives, and they can have swelling of their muzzle and around the face, neck, or eyes. They have severe coughing or breathing, and sometimes their legs might collapse, like they can't figure out. Those are usually happen if the vaccination that your animal received is the total wrong vaccination for their species. So usually none of these happen unless you get the complete wrong vaccination. So it's important to know that when you take your animals to the vet, that you're talking one-on-one with the veterinarian and they're explaining to you what type of species or breed you have of your type of animal, and that you know exactly what your animal is receiving. And if there's any other health problems, that they're treating for that as well. Because as long as you know everything, those severe effects won't happen at all. And then the ASPCA, this is what they show what each animal gets for vaccination. So core is vital to all pets on risk of exposure, severity of disease, or transmission to humans. So this is basically what your dogs and cats and any animal will receive in order for you to even be around it. So for dogs, they get the parvovirus, distemper, hepatitis, and rabies. So basically distemper is you want it to eliminate fever, coughing, and parvovirus can be a viral damage of the heart muscle. So the parvovirus is make sure your dog has a healthy heart. So like humans can supplement with like fish oils and stuff. Your dog gets this vaccine. That way they don't have to worry about it. And then non-core, they get Bordetella, Bronchispecta, Borrelia, Burgdorferi, and Leptospira bacteria. Now these are all major diseases that your dog could receive, but that's why when you first get an animal and you go to the vet, this is what they test for, especially if it's a rescue. Because if you get a rescue, they really don't know where the dog's been, so they make sure they get vaccinated for all of this. So Bordetella is a respiratory disease, mainly in dogs, but it can also infect cats, rabbits, and it's very rare in humans. It's basically kennel cough. So if you ever walked in a humane society, kennel cough is a huge thing, especially if they get a rescue that came from Lord knows where. So when they get in a dog that might have that problem, they take it in the back and they have it treated with the veterinarian, because once that dog has kennel cough and they go back in their cage, the rest of them have kennel cough. It's very, very contagious. So, and then with Borrelia, it's a causing agent from Lyme disease. So this is where it comes from, more likely North America and Europe. So it's not as common, but they do treat dogs for it because since Lyme disease can be transferred really quickly to the United States. And then the Leptospira is a disease that can lead to kidney damage or meningitis or liver failure, and it can also have respiratory distress. So that's another big one that your dog should be vaccinated for. And then with cats, they have feline calcivirus for their core, feline herpes virus type 1, and rabies. So basically we all know what the rabies shots are. And then for the first one, or for FPV, it's basically a lot with the cat plague. So they want to reduce the risk of having the cats have any, for domestic and wild. And then for FC, it's basically a respiratory infection. It can affect the lungs, the nasal passages, respiratory tract, all the above. And then with the feline herpesvirus, it's a respiratory infection. Basically what herpes virus in humans is kind of similar to cats. So, and then for the non-core, they get leukemia, Bordetella, Clinidophilia felis, feline immunodeficiency virus. Basically, they're all bacterial viruses that can be caused, and it helps to eliminate the bacteria from getting in. and they're mostly attacking the immune system or inflammation. So like when your cat has a really bad issue with breathing, it's mostly like it can inflame their lungs, and that's what having these vaccinations keeps away from.
So as a group, after looking at all the different aspects of animal cruelty, we came up with a list of characteristics that we thought an educated person in this field would have. For right now, my examples that I'll give you guys are just going to be normal domesticated pets, since that's probably what you're most familiar with. The first one was a person who's responsible. Responsibility is a big aspect of taking care of an animal, not just feeding and watering, but understanding the entire species, like of that breed or the cat that you're going to get before even adopting or buying one. You have to know which type of food would be best, if it's corn-based, meat-based, your water, how often do you change it, how much exercise depending on the breed. I have a bulldog, which was the first picture you guys saw. He does not exercise as much as a husky would. He's not very active. So you have to do your research before even introducing an animal into your house.